If you are new to this little self-discovery series, I am Casey, and we are just diving into different topics and franchises, answering questions, and in this case, hopefully figuring out what Godzilla means to us. Also, before we get going, if you don't want to watch, that is fantastic and awesome. Hopefully this is engaging and people go through the entire video and questions themselves, either publicly in the comments or in private, and also discuss what's going on, ideally without dickbaggery. Please and thank you. How would you describe the franchise to someone who knows nothing about Godzilla? Godzilla, or Gojira, has stood out as the embodiment of the kaiju genre since its debut in 1954. Directed by Ishiro Honda, a genre which can be argued was born with King Kong and centers around a larger than scientifically feasible creature attacking cities or each other. Godzilla originally stood out by both its filming techniques, pioneering tokusatsu or suitmation filmmaking. This original production was an unprecedented success in its original Japan, following with a modest success in overseas markets, something which just wasn't common at the time to my knowledge. The franchise has continued its significance by constantly changing and adapting, first changing to its sister film Mothra's lighter tone in the third Godzilla picture with like 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla. Toho, the production company that created the creature, will occasionally let the character rest and reintroduce Godzilla in a reinvigorated tone in new series, most recently with 2023's Godzilla -1. Toho also has come to embrace letting others use the character. Hi, so yeah, I recorded this just days before all the Toho news about the lawsuits started coming in about them suing independent creators for selling small goods on Etsy, which isn't their right to do, but they are picking on weirdly small creators instead of the big corporations that are stealing their things, which is what they said they were going for. That's neither here nor there. I don't really get into that in this video. For a more in-depth breakdown of the discussion, I would suggest this. Most significantly in 1998 with TriStar, the first American adaptation, and again in 2014, Legendary's Godzilla, which led to another hugely successful film series. When and how were you introduced to the franchise? My earliest distinct memories of Godzilla are actually of Mothra. Well, hooray. I can't say exactly when, but I saw a few shots of Mothra vs. Godzilla on TV growing up. But even before that, I had osmosis its way into my mind. I knew what Godzilla was before I saw Mothra's egg on the beach. I remember the hype of Godzilla 98, but I was only 5 at the time, so I missed that in theaters. No, my proper introduction to Godzilla would end up being Godzilla Final Wars, as presented on the Sony PSP. And whether or not it was the best introduction, it definitely got a 12-year-old me hooked. I found whatever movies I could find on DVD and Blu-ray, watched all of the early internet videos about the Godzilla franchise, and that fueled my gradual admiration for the franchise until this modern boom for Godzilla, and that's made it so much easier. How much of the franchise have you consumed? Long story short, just about all the well-known projects in the franchise up to this point, which means after -1 and Legacy of Monsters, but before the new Empire. I've seen the Showa, the Heisei, and Millennium eras, and all of the Reiwa eras. I own and have seen all of the MonsterVerse franchise, including Kong and, again, Legacy of Monsters. most of Godzilla Islands, or at least most of what is up on the YouTubes. And I'm pretty sure I've seen all of the officially released shorts, animated and the suit-mated ones. But that being said, I haven't had a chance to see the Hanna-Barbera series yet. I just don't have access to it at this point. And there's probably more shorts and obscure projects that I haven't seen, so please let me know what those are and where to find them. But Godzilla is more than just the motion pictures. There are a lot of books I haven't read. I really want to get a hold of the Godzilla Earth prequel novel series translated. I don't know if that's been done yet, but those are books I've been wanting to check out for a while. I just picked up the official translation of Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again, and those have been great so far. And at the time of recording, I know Godzilla's fighting the Justice League in comic book form. I'm going to have to pick that up at some point. There's also the largest model... Well, there's also one of the largest model fan bases out there. And these are all aspects of the fandom I just haven't been able to engage with at this point, and it's not because I'm uninterested. There's just time, dude. And as far as the games go, I just kind of almost forgot they existed. I'm sorry. That's just how much of an impact they've had on me. Not that they aren't good productions, they just never really got into my hands. What is the most obscure Godzilla project you've seen? Again, those officially released shorts, both animated and Suitmation, those are all on. I don't know how obscure those are, but I don't feel like they're super well known to the general public, I guess. If you haven't seen them and like Godzilla, check those out. Those are on the official YouTube channel. But other than that, it would probably be something like Godzilla vs. Bambi, which is an animated short. Again, something I do want to get a hold of those Godzilla Earth prequel novels. So it sounds like exactly what I wanted and didn't get from the anime trilogy, a doomed war on kaiju that goes into depth about how any one kaiju we have seen could systematically destroy an infrastructure we have here in ours, pretty much. What Godzilla projects are you looking forward to exploring in the future? Again, I just picked up the original novelizations of the original screenplay from screenwriter Shigeru Kayama, who is a prolific Japanese science fiction and horror writer. So very much looking forward to finishing those soon, since those were really recently only translated into English for the first time by, I believe it's Jeffrey Angles. Other than that, it would be nice to find some time to dive into the comics, since those have only grown more robust and numerous in recent years. I think Mechagodzilla just showed up in the Versus Justice League comic. How often do you revisit the franchise? Godzilla specifically, pretty consistently, but not quite as devotedly as other franchises. I'm okay picking and choosing what Godzilla movie I put on over, say, starting from the original once a year and going through the entire franchise. Most recently, I watched The Legacy of Monsters once it aired, and again, I binged it after it was entirely released. And yeah, before that, Shin Godzilla and Minus One I watched in December. Other than that, I've been trying to keep it low so I can be really excited when the new Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, comes out. Favorite suit actors? I'm not someone who can name every Godzilla suit and design and modification, full stop. That being said, I do have an immense respect and admiration for the people in the suits. Haru Nakajima and Katsumi Tezuka and so many others who killed themselves for what a lot of people incorrectly see as a lesser medium or made for children. For my money, though, Kenpachiro Satsuma stands as my Godzilla and one of my favorite suit actors, period. Having started by portraying Hedorah and Gigan throughout the Showa era, before being granted the opportunity to be in the Godzilla suit throughout the entirety of the Heisei period, bringing a little nuance and a lot of personality to each kaiju he would play. Dubbed or subtitled? I think this is a hot take for some reason, but I do not care. It's not like subtitles are one-to-one with the original Japanese dialogue, since they rarely can be. Japanese has words that just don't exist in the English language, and jokes and humor just don't translate. I have access to dubbed and subbed versions of every movie that has both and that I currently own. It really just depends on what I'm in the mood for. Dubs will always come across as a little more lighthearted and will be easier for my dumb brain to consume. Subtitles will always more often than not be better performed since it's in the native language, as well as taking the subject matter a touch more seriously. Sometimes, very rarely, you will get yourself a movie where the director also wrote the English subtitles, like in Pan's Labyrinth. And if that's the case, that's where I would always lean. Otherwise, I don't think neither is wrong. They're just different adaptations. It just depends on the mood. What movies would you suggest as an introduction to the franchise? I would ask follow-up questions. Does the viewer want something that is more palatable to a modern audience? In that case, I would honestly suggest starting with the MonsterVerse. It's built and paced for modern audiences in a way that you don't get up until this point. And if you can get behind the general idea presented, I absolutely suggest Godzilla -1 as soon as that is widely available. Again, it's made for a modern audience, but unlike what a lot of people, I would say wrongly, assume is smashing toys together in the MonsterVerse, -1 is more in line with the original concept and the original film. From there, I would actually suggest hopping around between eras to find what you like most. Definitely pick up the original, but from the original Showa era, I'd say Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster or Mothra vs. Godzilla. I would almost suggest watching the entire Heisei era, as I found it particularly consistent, but picking and choosing verse Biollante or verse Dysatreya. The Millennium era is a little more scattered, but Against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS do feel like the height of that era to me. And the current Reiwa era is even more scattered. The only thing people would probably argue is a must-watch is Shin Godzilla, also marketed as Godzilla Resurgence, a contemporary take on the original story, and again, definitely see Godzilla -1. Should Godzilla be able to run? I don't fucking care. It depends on the context of the story. It doesn't suspend my belief any more than a skyscraper-sized lizard that shoots grumpy bear-colored radiation from his mouth. What do you believe Godzilla represents? I feel like I'm repeating the word context a lot, but alas, because it depends on the context of the story he's in. Sometimes he is the living embodiment of nuclear destructions, and sometimes he represents the planet itself. Other times he's just trying to be a good dad, or that time he was the embodiment of the spirits of those who perished at the hands of the Japanese during World War II. Our big lizard boy can really represent all of these things, and that's okay, and that's awesome. Godzilla has thrived by being flexible and open to interpretation. It does feel weird that individuals believe Godzilla has to stand for nuclear despair because this... and this definitely don't send the same message, despite both being Godzilla and both being directed by Ishiro Honda. Pitch a Godzilla project. let's try and do something different. Gonna place this in the MonsterVerse, but it's gonna be more of a Godzilla tangent. We're gonna follow some random guy working on the shores of Lake Erie, someplace in Cedar Point, looking out onto the lake when something from the stars splashes in the distance, and the second smallest of the Great Lakes seemingly comes alive. All the iridescent oil in the water shaping into the classic Showa monster Hedorah. In his suit form first, making landfall in the amusement park where guests scatter. We hear roars in the distance, and Gearus charges from land and tackles Hedorah, but goes right through the sludge monster into that first character we were following, ending them. We start off with a big kaiju fight surrounded by roller coasters in the amusement park, ending in Anguirus' retreat and Hedorah just moving straight towards Cleveland. So yeah, we're going to try and do some pseudo-serious reinterpretation of the old canceled parody movie It Ate Cleveland. Not even in name. Call it anything. Call it the Smog Monster Ate Cleveland. Have Godzilla show up to save the day, but I want him hinted at that he's on his way through social media and news clips while everybody's favorite spiky boy Anguirus does his best to hold the line until then. After that first fight, maybe we follow a sibling of that original character working in the Cleveland Science Center or something, watching Hedorah slowly grows as it absorbs more of the sludge and the pollution from the lake. I have this vision of Hedorah growing to the size of the whole lake by the finale in his saucer form, dwarfing Godzilla and Anguirus. Definitely would win if the team of heroes didn't bullseye his one tangible spot, his eye, that had originally splashed down in the opening. In the end, there is some half-hopeful note that the lake is still a mess, but we can work to clean it and reverse the sludge that we created and Hedorah fed off. There's emotional music swelling, Godzilla and Anguirus roar, and credits. Alternatively, a Haru Nakajima biopic. Everyone knows it's a no-brainer, just do it, you guys. What does Godzilla mean to you? That's my roar, by the way. I love Godzilla. I love the concept. I love how important the character is to so many people. But what does he mean to me? A lot like he is in-universe, he is a presence and has been since I was introduced to the franchise. Even at his doofiest moments, I love and respect the work that goes into the productions. Everything the departments work on, the character manages to embody wonder and awe, fear, even hope, depending on the context. Godzilla is an intensely powerful icon for radiation and disaster at his roots, but captures the hearts of children somehow. Godzilla, upon his debut, immediately became the face of the kaiju genre as a whole, and there's a reason for that. That reason can't just be because it's superficially bombastic and successful. You don't get a slew of fans and creators making tributes or independent projects unless it means a great deal and they believe there is something more. And with an idea as simple as a giant monster attacking, what could be there feels pretty infinite. Upcoming episodes on, and accepting questions on, in the comments.